Thank you for joining us today. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance of the United States, indivisible, with
Oh, sitting in the pool. Welcome, everyone. Looks like we have a nice crowd today. We're glad you're here. Our first order of business is to adopt the agenda.
Madam President, I move we adopt the agenda and reorder the regular agenda as follows. First item will be the presentation of Rhodes Scholars and Masters. The second item shall be election of officers for calendar year 2020. The third item is the appointment of new members to the Bicycle Advisory Committee. And the fourth item is the Spring Rock Subdivision preliminary plat.
All right, is there a second?
yes, second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next, we'll take up the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a commissioner or citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda. All consent agenda items are commission action items unless otherwise noted. We have a motion.
Madam President, I move approval of the consent agenda with the exception of item number 3, which should be remanded back to staff indefinitely.
Second.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, nay. Motion passes. Okay, that takes us to the regular agenda, and the first item is a fun one for us. We get to present the Road Scholars and Road Masters. So we'll ask LTAC to come up, and we're going to come down and help you with those presentations.
Coming down now.
Well, you go ahead if you have a...
Okay. Thank you so much for having me once again. I am Layla Kral, the Deputy Administrator of the Local Highway Technical Assistance Council, or LTAC. One of our responsibilities at LTAC is that we manage the T2 Center, the training portion of LTAC and the state. We train and provide technical assistance to all 288 local agencies across the state. So all cities and counties with road responsibility, as well as all highway districts. This also is one of my favorite things to do every year, is to recognize the employees who've completed our programs through the T2 Center. We have 2 levels of recognition for the training. The training covers a wide variety of topics. We have safety courses, professional development courses, and then a large chunk of construction and maintenance courses. The first level of recognition is the Road Scholar. When an employee reaches that level, it's about 80 hours of instruction. They have 4 years to do it, though many of the ACHD employees go much quicker through the program. And with that, we come to recognize them in front of you, their commissioners. Each Road Scholar will receive a hat, a certificate, and a Leatherman tool inscribed with LTAC T2 Road Scholar. The second level, I will just talk about this now while you guys are up there, is the Road Master. The Road Master is approximately another 80 hours of an instruction. Much of that instruction builds on the information they've learned through the first step of the program, the Road Scholar. More exams throughout the Road Master courses, and then more field work as well. More calculations, more math, and more field work. To get to the Road Master, as I mentioned, is about 160 hours total of instruction, both in and out of the classroom. To pass the courses that have an exam, it's an 80%. So I like to say we don't want bodies in seats, just like you don't want employees away for the day. It really is the goal for them to get something from the class, to learn something. And the ultimate goal of both programs is for everybody to be doing everything the right way every time, being the most efficient when they're out on the job working, to stretch every dollar that you're investing in the roadways. So with that, I'll begin the presentations. First up with the Road Scholars.
Okay, we're going to come down and help you with that.
And I'll call them up no particular order. For your Road Scholars, 3 today. Jesse Glidden. Jonathan Herman. And Zach Gray. And then we'll start the presentation of the Roadmasters. Again, these employees have been completed about 160 hours of instruction to get to this point. First, Joe Helgerson. Braden Thompson. Chad Atnett. Brian Borden. Matthew Christensen. Brian Cossins. Vince Stick. Jeffrey Dupree. Greg Gallagher. Paul Moffitt. Edgar Ray. Everett Round. Dale Shobe. Jeremy Snow. Carl Hancock. Two employees who couldn't be here today, Christian Gomez and Justin Starkey, also completed their Roadmaster. This brings the total Roadmasters for ACHD to 82, which again is the highest, obviously, across the state. Most of those have happened in the last 4 or so years, so congratulations to all of the employees. And if you guys want to squeeze in for a picture. Employees. All the employees who received awards today are requested in the lobby. So the Roadmasters all received a certificate and a jacket with the LTAC T2 Roadmaster on them. And both groups, the Road Scholars and Roadmasters, will be recognized in our upcoming newsletter as employees of ACHD with their pictures and your picture as well. Again, thank you to ACHD for continuing to support the program and send your employees. I hope that they're still explaining the value they're receiving from the program and that you guys are seeing it when you invest dollars into the road. Are there any questions that I can answer while I'm here?
No, but with so many people from ACHD going and completing it, you're gonna have to come up with a third level.
We do have a third category.
Really?
It is a leadership program, so it's a little bit separate from the Road Scholar and Road Master programs, where you don't need to complete those to complete the leadership program. It was requested by a number of local agencies as they're dealing with retiring workforces and retiring leadership within those workforces. So the program is aimed at roadway employees, so it's not a college level leadership program, but trying to bridge that gap of up and coming leaders within the organization, bringing them up to the level to potentially become a road supervisor or a crew chief or whatever those next levels are within each agency and organization across the state. So we have 3 of those courses out right now. We're rolling them out about 1 every semester so that we don't, overload the program. But that program is in its, I wouldn't say 4th term right now, 4th semester was what I call them. So we do have that going, and then we're always looking at ways to diversify or bring more training into the state.
When do spring registrations start?
January, the schedule will be released the end of January, and the registration will open up in February. We do a rolling registration where one day we do North Idaho, one day Central Idaho, and one day East Idaho to not overload our system or overload the support we have in the office. So normally around the 1st or 2nd week in February, we'll put out quite a few things beforehand before the registration opens, including the schedule, which has to be posted by the end of January.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, and I want to say thank you to our employees. I'm really proud of the level of professionalism that we have at ACHD, and I think it reflects very well on the district that we have so many employees who have taken these courses and advanced their expertise and careers. So, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we will elect officers. We need to elect and appoint a treasurer and secretary for the calendar year. We need to elect a president and vice president. So do we have nominations or motion?
Madam President, I would nominate for president Commissioner Mary May.
Second.
All right, are there any other nominations? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? I will be voting no. Next, we need to elect a vice president. Are there nominations?
Madam President, I would nominate Kent Goldthorpe for vice president.
Second.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, nay? I will be voting nay. Okay, next we have the appointment of the treasurer.
Madam President, I would nominate Sherwin Pescap to be our treasurer.
Second.
Sorry.
And hopefully he's on board with that. We kind of count on you.
Hard to pronounce his name right.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed, nay? Motion passes. And next is the appointment of the secretary for the commission.
Madam President, I would appoint Stacy Spencer to be our secretary. Pronounced it right this time.
Okay, and hopefully she's happy with that. All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, nay? Motion passes. All right, that takes us to item number 3, which is the appointment of the Bicycle Advisory Committee. Do you want to take over, Mary, or do you want me to finish the meeting?
You can go ahead and finish if you'd like.
Okay. Bicycle Advisory Committee, I would request, and I'm going to make the motion to defer this item. I'd like to have some further discussion on this and some input from the Bicycle Advisory Committee. So I'm going to make the motion to defer this item, and we'll see if I get a second. Okay.
I'd be happy to second it, but I'd love to hear from the Bicycle Advisory Committee that's here. So maybe you should listen to them first. I'd
Oh, okay.
have a discussion.
Okay, well then
So that
let's do
our
that.
Motions are.
I'll withdraw the motion. So were we going to have a staff presentation on this?
Yes.
At the commission's direction, yes. Yeah.
You're gonna have to speak up.
I apologize. Madam Chairman, at your direction, I can give a brief presentation on this appointment. The application or The item before you this afternoon is for reappointment and appointment of Bicycle Advisory Committee members. There are currently three serving BAC members requesting reappointment by the commission. That would be Ray Hubing. He currently serves as our vice chair. He's from District 3 and serves North Boise. Brent Jennings is also from District 3 and he serves the Eagle area. And Gary Seegers is also from District 3 and he serves Garden City area. Their term would be a 2-year term that would terminate on January 1st, 2020 unless they seek reappointment again. We also have 2 individuals requesting appointment to the ACHD Bicycle Advisory Committee. The first is Debbie Lombard Bloom. She would be in District 3, which would be Northwest Boise area, and Graham Patterson, District 2, the West Boise bench. Again, if they were appointed, it would be a 2-year term ending January 1st of 2022 unless they sought reappointment. I've provided a map of where current and proposed member locations would be throughout the county. We have several in District 3, District 2, we have one in District 1, one in District 4. We currently don't have any in District 5. Staff recommendation is confirm the appointment of Debbie Lombard Bloom and Graham Patterson and confirm the reappointment of Ray Hubing, Brent Jennings, and Gary Seegers. And I will stand for any questions.
Great. I have a couple questions. Go ahead. Since I have learned a whole lot from this committee, sitting in on it, and you're the 3rd staff member who's graciously served to work on that over the last 7 years, I've learned a lot. One of the processes that I've learned is that when there's vacancies, the committee takes it quite seriously, and they understand there's a need for geographic spread throughout the county, and so there's a time period when a vacancy is announced that they go out and go see if they can't find other bicycle advocates, because that's the part of the description, the job description. And the last one, there were quite a number of requests. It was refreshing to see. There were like, I don't know, 4 or 5. And I think Jared got the appointment to that one. And the committee discussed it, and of course the commission then appointed Jared. None of this happened this time because I was at the December meeting, so I was wondering what changed, or is there an opportunity? The other question, of course, I had was I was looking forward to listening to the discussion at the January meeting, and it was canceled. So I just wondered what's up.
Yeah, Madam Chairman, Commissioner, over the years with the BAC, there's never been a set process for appointing members to the BAC. Some have been by commission. These 2 members were brought forward by Commissioner Baker for appointment. We really have no set process. Obviously, the BAC has expressed interest in receiving those nominations so that they can get that information ahead of time. Just the way things worked this year, we had a recommendation and we had 2 openings.
Great. Well, I think it's a good process to continue to allow some input from the community. I know personally the 2 nominees have no objection whatsoever. I really like them both. I know that one of the vacancies is from Meridian, and it's not being filled with someone from Meridian. So we really do need, as the 2nd biggest city in the state, not just Ada County, we really need some bike advocates from Meridian. So I would agree that we should give actually take the committee up on their practice and procedure and let them go out there and seek application. I find that those who actually actively pursue participation, it's volunteer, end up sticking it out because they disagree with each other. They put in a lot of time. Sometimes they'll go on field trips, and it's purely voluntary. We can take their advice or we can ignore their advice. Nonetheless, I really appreciate the work that goes on, and I'd love to hear the input from the committee.
Did you have a comment, Commissioner Ryan?
I did. I certainly agree with Commissioner Hanson, and I want to congratulate the members that have been reappointed and welcome the 2 newest members. I think you all do a phenomenal job. I would like to, as Commissioner Hansen stated, move towards more representative, and it's my district, so I'm very pleased to see 5 individuals from District 3, but we don't have anybody currently from District 5, and so I think it really would behoove us to bring in some people across the valley, because this is a very important issue, and so that can be something that we can work towards as well. But congratulations to all of you.
Madam President?
Yes,
The
Commissioner
problem
Baker?
has always been, we don't get a lot of people from the outlying areas and I don't mean to be pejorative there, but like CUNA was extremely difficult to find someone. Meridian, Star even, they're just, it was always very difficult. I remember always trying to recruit people from like Star, for example. My concern is that we don't have a valid bicycle advisory committee now. We have 5 vacancies, and the quorum is 6, and they can't do anything officially until they get new membership. So I'd like to see this just be approved today. They can begin their work as a full committee. And then, we can always add people through the bylaws. We can always, if there's people that come forward from Meridian or Star or places like that and wish to be part of the committee, or they can go out and recruit some people, we can always add them. But I do think, they can't function now. They absolutely can't function because they don't have a quorum.
Actually, if I may, President Arnold, Commissioner Baker, I believe the bylaws say a majority of the members. So whatever the total membership is, a majority makes a quorum for them. And they're advisory, so they make advice to us. And what I would really encourage is to sit in. I really appreciate sitting in on their meetings and listening, because then you can see how hard they do work to reach out to the different parts of the county.
Well, Madam
Commissioner Goldberg.
President,
Oh, go
I know that Debbie Lombard Bloom is a member of that Boise Bike Boulevard thing, which is low stress, which is where we're really trying to go. So she would represent them as well as just recreational riders. And I think that's a valuable asset. And then the other, Graham Patterson, I know he would be the only one from the West Bench, quite frankly. And we haven't had anybody really from there. He's a recreational biker, but he's also commuted to the downtown from the West Bench for a number of years. And so he's very well aware of a lot of the issues that come with, trying to navigate the streets. I think they're both excellent candidates. And as I said, they can always add if they can go out and recruit people.
Commissioner Goldthorpe, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I would just echo all the positive things that have been said about these 2 candidates. I have never in my life witnessed anybody as interested in the process and in getting involved in things as Debbie. And I mean, she spends a lot of energy now doing far better things as a community-minded, civic-minded individual than most anyone I know. Graham Patterson I've worked with for probably at least 12 years on a lot of different boards and committees, and I have found him to be a very, very reliable individual with everything that he's ever volunteered to do. So I just have no, and some of you who might not know him, please understand, I don't give endorsements like that lightly.
All right, anyone else? have
Madam
questions?
President, I asked a question about why the meeting was canceled this month, and I guess which is where a discussion would have taken place over this.
Madam Chairman, Commissioner Hansen, that meeting was canceled due to lack of quorum because we had, at the direction to hold those during daylight hours for the safety of the participants and staff. Additionally, we did not know that we were going to have a second seat available until the 1st of January. One of the existing members did not submit a request for reappointment, and so they have until January 1st to do so. We didn't receive it, so that's when that second seat became available.
So now I'm confused. It's always 6 o'clock on the first Monday of the month, which in the winter it's dark and in the summer it's light. Have we changed that? Is there a policy that's changed the meeting time now? I can't remember us voting on that.
Commissioners, no, sir, that is my decision based on safe operations here at the Ada County Highway District. As you are well aware, we've had some issues out here from interesting folks and broken windows, so I did not want to have our team members, nor the bicycle advisory, nor any committee member at this point in time put in any type of unsafe situation. So during less than daylight hours, I've asked our team, if possible, to have meetings scheduled here during the daytime for safety considerations. It's, as the director, that's my prerogative.
So I have a question then. Has this advisory committee and other evening meetings, have they come back with a proposal as to when they're going to meet during the
Not that I'm aware
winter
of.
months? Have they
Not
been
that I'm
asked?
aware of.
Have they been asked?
Have they been asked what their perspective is? I'd
No.
have to defer that to our team.
Have they been asked for an alternative
wait a
meeting winter time? An alternative meeting winter time with this new policy that they cannot meet at night?
Commissioner Hanson, we sent out a poll to all the existing members. That's why the January, because we couldn't find a time that worked for everybody. I've sent out another poll for the goals meeting as well as the February meeting to see if we can find an appropriate time for everybody to meet. Move forward after I receive responses from everybody.
I'd like to hear from the committee.
Okay. Anything further at this point? No? Okay, then we do have a couple of people who've signed up to talk about it. Lisa Brady, if you would please come up and state your name and address for the record.
Absolutely. My name is Lisa Brady. I reside at 1506 North 12th Street, and I am the current chair of the ACHD Bicycle Advisory Committee. I have a copy of the bylaws for each one of you, so I don't know who I need to submit that to, but it's a reference for you to see. So on January 3rd, 2020, I was made aware that there would be 2 people appointed to the Bicycle Advisory Committee today. Via an email between myself, Ray Hu being the vice chair, and Christy Inselman, our staff liaison here at ACHD. It was not known to me nor any of the other members of the Bicycle Advisory Committee that there would be any openings until this email came out. The appointments were due to one member stepping off the committee in December and another not requesting reinstatement. As the chair of this committee, I was not notified of the resignation of these 2 members until the email on January 3rd. At that time, I requested copies of the resignation and received one with the date of December 3rd. We have a process in place. It is defined by our bylaws, which are right in front of you right now. It allows us to work in an open and inclusive environment. Our process must be transparent. The bylaws are clear regarding the process of resignation and renewal, and it was not followed. These are the 2 sections of the bylaws which pertain to this issue, and I'll read them, but they are highlighted for you. On page 1, Article 4, Section A, committee members shall serve 2 terms, 2 years, commencing at the end of the regular meeting in January. Members may serve an unlimited number of terms. All members will be required to request renewal of membership biannually. And underscoring this, the membership renewal request must be submitted in writing, including email, to the committee chairperson as defined below. I have not received that until I requested it last Thursday or Friday. Page 3, Article 4, Section I, member resignation. A committee member, this is underscored, may resign from the committee membership by giving notice by letter or email to the chairperson. That's me again. And I didn't receive that until I requested it this last week. This seems like a pretty clear process to me. It's a bylaw. No one on the BAC knew about these openings, and due to this, have been denied the opportunity to share these openings with the communities we represent. The BAC, while not required to be filled by geographic areas, should be carefully looked at to ensure all communities and persons within those communities are represented. The public should be notified when these openings happen. I can find no evidence in my quick search on Friday last week or Monday when I was finding this all out that showed any notification of openings or any opportunity for others to apply. My essential question, how did persons listed on the staff report come to apply? Was this known by the commissioners? And it's an answer to me now that it's true, that it was known prior by the commission. There are two parts to this request as I see it, and they should be separated. One is to reinstate the current members who have requested it in order to keep this Bicycle Advisory Committee functioning. Those people are Ray Hubing, Gary Seegers, and Brent Jennings, and I fully support their reinstatement. The second part is adding new members. I formally request this item be sent back to staff so it can be shared to the BAC and shared to the public, posted until January 31st of this year, returned to the BAC for our review at our February meeting, and returned to you with our recommendations, your decision still, but at least we have had a chance to express it to our public. I have, in the last 72 hours, been to a lot of meetings. My first one this week was the Meridian Transportation Commission meeting, where I met with Council Vice President Luke Kavner, who expressed knowledge of several candidates in the Meridian area which would be viable for this Bicycle Advisory Committee. It remains a concern to me. I also serve, as you know, as the president of the Treasure Valley Cycling Alliance. I know a lot of people out there who ride a bicycle. I have a lot of knowledge of where we can find those people. In Star, we have a league cycling instructor that would like to be involved. We have those people. Today is not yesterday or 10 years ago. And I will remind you all that there are two other highlighted places there, and I'll finish with these things. These are Article 2. The committee shall be an advisory committee made up of volunteers who are active bicycling advocates. Committee members must live in Ada County, and the committee should represent as many jurisdictions as practical and encompass a broad cross-section of cyclists, including individual riders and members of the organized cycling community. Article 4, Section D on page 2. Appointments should be representative of a wide variety of bicycling interests. Appointees shall have an interest in, experience with, and a demonstrated commitment to issues pertaining to bicycling and bicycle facilities. Members may currently represent groups, organizations, and businesses that serve Ada County residents, and the committee shall consist of a minimum of 6 volunteer members, which is necessary for us to have a quorum, and a maximum of 10. I provided you all with these bylaws. They are nearly the same for our pedestrian advisory group, which is the same thing is happening with the pedestrian advisory group. I'll remind us that these are our guiding documents, and we should be taking them seriously by all of us, the staff, the commission, and members of the committees. My command as the chair of this committee is to require that each person on the committee understands these bylaws and we act within them. And I would ask that back, and I thank you for your time, and I'll stand for any questions or comments or being kicked off the committee.
Thank you. Are there questions?
I just have a question. You referenced the February meeting. That's the next meeting. When is that scheduled? If it's not at 6 o'clock on the first Monday?
It is not yet scheduled. I'm aware of the email that's come out. We have a poll that we will be taking. It's provided to all of the members of the committee, and we will try to find a time to meet.
So that you would only anticipate meeting before February
I would hope,
1st?
well, I don't anticipate that right now, though we have it temporarily, well, at our December meeting, we had decided to have a secondary meeting to address our goals, because when we talk about the goals, it's a long discussion. What do we want to do for 2020? And that was apparent that we would need a special meeting for that. We agreed to do that on January 20th. As far as I know, that meeting has been canceled, and we're trying to find an additional date for that meeting. If I'm not correct, you can correct me on that.
Okay, yes, Commissioner
So, Ms.
May?
Brady, just so that we understand what your requests are, you are requesting the reappointment of the 3
Yes,
members, so that you then will have your established quorum.
yes,
And then these other appointments will need to be made during the month of January. So you would like to keep that open and then come back to the commission, now you're in February?
correct me if I'm wrong, but not all appointments are made in January.
Okay, I was under the impression for this one,
Right.
it was in January.
Right.
Okay.
So, for what I see, there's been some kind of an emergency action on this to fill it to 10 spots, when I don't perceive that that's necessary. We need a base of 6, and we can decide that. We just had not a reappointment, but actually new members put on the committee just a few months ago, which is not January. So that seems like an artificial deadline to me.
Thank you.
Other comments? No? It-
One-
Yes, Commissioner Goldthorpe?
I fully respect and understand the concerns for these bylaws. In a past life, I've spent a lot of time trying to get people to adhere to bylaws. So we'll decide what to do here really quickly, but it wouldn't change the opinion, I don't think, of anyone here regarding the appointees whose names you see here on the staff report. But I do understand and believe we need to respect these bylaws.
Yeah, it does seem like a reasonable compromise to go ahead and confirm the reappointment of the existing 3 members. And then that would alleviate Commissioner Baker's concern. And then defer appointing 2 new members until we've gone through the process and complied with the bylaws. That seems like a reasonable compromise to me.
Madam President, I disagree. I think new blood is important. I think it's important to have new people on there, and I think the geography is important. And as we can see, most of the people on the committee are from number 3. And so how many of the reappointments are from District 3? Do we know?
Madam Chairman, I believe 2 of them are from
2 of them.
District
So quite frankly,
three. I can go back on that slide.
you know, if we're gonna throw this back to the committee, I think what we need to do is have them take a look at everything.
All 3.
All of them, not just reappoint them just because they want to be reappointed, which I think is going to probably cause some concern. But I don't think we can have it both ways. So I think we can approve them all today, and they can go forward and do their business. And if they need to increase the membership from other outlying areas, that's fine. Or we give it back to the committee and say, be more geographically appropriate, and these 3 may not be reappointed, I would think. So I would prefer, let's just get it done today, and they can move forward and do their goals and go from there.
I have a question
Go
for
ahead.
Christie. Can you show us the 2 new appointees? The 2 where Debbie Bloom is from, what geographic area she represents?
I fully understand she's from Northwest District. However, I also believe new blood is important. I think there is something to be said always for new blood. And as you can see, Graham Patterson is basically from the West Bench. And we really,
So, Madam Chair, just my observation of sitting in on the Bike Advisory Committee, and I would really encourage you to do the same, is that there are advocates who come and sit who are not members of the committee, and they are invited to provide their input at all times. And I really appreciate that the more and the diverse ideas that come forward are good. Frankly, demonstration of Debbie's participation here today, Debbie's participation in the Bike Boulevard Committee sort of reinforces that she's going to attend the meetings. And those who don't attend the meetings then ultimately don't participate, don't end up being on it. So I would suggest we reappoint these 3 and appoint Debbie, since she's been so involved in this process. She's here today as well, and has those credentials. We were not given resumes, although we were given resumes to the appointees to the ADA Advisory Committee. So at least in future, I think, in the process, and I think we were when Jared was and others were appointed, that we would be included. So in the process, we open that up and understand that it's really about more information coming forward. So I would move that we reappoint those 3.
Ready for a motion.
Oh, you're not?
We still
Okay.
have some other people.
Oh, you 2. Okay, sorry. Excuse me.
Okay,
Thank you, Lisa.
Gary Stegers? I'm sorry. Would you please come up and state your name and address for the record?
Good afternoon. My name is Gary Seegers. I live at 10277 Waterway Court, Boise, Idaho, and I am a member of the Bicycle Advisory Committee. I can see now there is a lot of disagreement about how we should approach this. Let me explain, though, what I think is important, and to you in particular, Commissioner Baker, I appreciate the fact that you want to provide some diversity and some new types of new people to join us in our committee. I think that's very worthy, and I appreciate your interest in making sure that this BAC functions the way that it makes sense on behalf of you and good decision-making. However, I was unaware of this also as a BAC member. Let's go a little bit further on this, and that is this. Last July, and I think Commissioner Hanson pointed this out very, very adequately, and that is the BAC members spent a considerable amount of time reviewing proposals from individuals who were interested in, I think it was District 2. And we sat around, we didn't talk about it, but we reviewed some great applications. And then we made a decision and forwarded it to you, and you endorsed our decision to appoint this particular member. Now we're at a position where we've got 2 apparently new members. If you'll take a look at the diagram up there, in particular, we're talking about the district that I'm in. And take a look at the northwest portion. We need representation from the city of Star. They're a fast-moving, extremely interested in developing bike facilities within that area. We do not have that there. If I knew that we had a vacancy in District 3, like many of us in the BAC, we would get our attention and try to encourage people to then apply for interest in being on the BAC. So we all can take a look at it. Just like I would very much like to see the applications, Commissioner Baker, for the 2 nominees that you have suggested. I have not. I certainly not saying that I can't rely on your judgment. I'm just simply saying we've got people in the BAC who are very, very involved in this community, in the bicycling community. And could you please trust us then that we can make some good recommendations and that we can forward them to you for your consideration. And I wouldn't be surprised if one, if not both, could well be those nominees. We just don't know yet, and from our perspective, and we feel that you owe us that assessment before you make that judgment. Any questions on that?
Questions or comments? Okay, thank you very much. The next person who has signed up to testify is Cynthia Gibson. And if you would, please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the commission. My name is Cynthia Gibson, and I am the Executive Director of the Idaho Walk Bike Alliance, a statewide advocacy group. It's nice to see all of you again. And I'm also the chairman of the Pedestrian Advisory Group. And I came here today because of an item on the consent agenda, but I am pleased to see that staff removed it. That's item, my address? Oh, I'm sorry, 2004 North 9th Street in Boise. Item number 3 has been removed from the consent agenda, and I actually have a meeting with staff on Friday. So I'm very pleased about that and about the procedures. But a couple of quick things. I do want to introduce you to our Pedestrian Advisory Group and invite you to come to our meetings. It was rescheduled because of the evening situation. We will be meeting next Thursday at noon. If you would all like to join us, we would love to have you. And many people who know me know I have to always comment on pedestrian things, so I'm going to do that since I have the microphone. Item number 4 on the consent agenda, which is the study to do diagonal curb ramps and pedestrian push button inventory. We would like to request that once that assessment is done and you are installing more curb ramps, we request that you install bulb outs in those intersections to improve safety for pedestrians. And I will add to the agenda for the Pedestrian Advisory Group to write a letter stating that. So that's all I have today. Are there any questions for me?
Okay, are there any questions?
No, I'd just like to say thank you. I appreciate your involvement. And so it's the 16th. It's been moved to noon on the 16th.
If next, yes, the
Yes,
16th,
okay.
next Thursday, yes.
Okay, that's going to be a busy day for us. Good. I encourage everybody to attend that meeting too. I haven't been able to come as often, but there's been some really good input, and And I know there's been a member from Star.
Correct.
That's been very good, and I think you have someone from Eagle as well.
Yes, thank you.
I had one thing. I just wanted to thank you for the extraordinary work that you and your group do. And I really enjoyed, I was able to go and be with Cynthia when you were doing the traffic counts down there, and was very impressed. So thank you.
Thank you, and thanks for coming down and visiting us for that project.
It was my pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Yes, Commissioner Goldberg.
Just like to let Cynthia know that it's in my calendar now.
Okay, is there anyone else who would like to provide any comments on this item? No? Okay. Then we're ready for a discussion and a motion. I do agree with the concerns raised by the Bicycle Advisory Committee that that perhaps the process wasn't followed. We have bylaws in these committees for a reason, and I think it's really important to follow the processes that are in place. They've also raised concerns about transparency, and, that's always a concern for us. So I'm going to make a motion that I think is a reasonable compromise. I'm going to move that we confirm the reappointment of the 3 existing committee members, and that we defer appointing new members to the committee until the Bicycle Advisory Committee has had an opportunity to meet and go through the process that's set forth in the bylaws.
I'm happy seconding that, just because I know that our member, Debbie Lombard Bloom, is so involved. She's going to go anyway. She's going to go to the meeting and participate, and they're going to welcome her participation. So
Well, and
no
I
doubt.
agree
So I
that-
think that's fine, and it'd be nice to see whether the other nominee comes and participates in those discussions. They're really good, so I'll second your motion.
And I agree that Debbie Lombard Bloom is an excellent candidate, and she's here. I just think for consistency purposes, we should defer both of the appointments of new members until we have followed the process in the bylaws, and to ensure that there's transparency in the process. So further discussion.
I'm going to make a substitute motion that we approve the 3 reappointments and the 2 new appointments to the Bicycle Advisory Committee as stated in the staff report.
All right, it appears that, you're going to
Yeah,
second
I
that?
would second
Okay.
that, yeah. Get the ball rolling.
All right, discussion on the substitute motion then, whether or not we should just ignore the process and appoint all 5.
Well, I have, I just looking at this chart here, we have 3 clumped, they obviously like our neighbors, and one is even, very close. It's on the border of number 1 and number 2, very close to the other 3. And I think if we're really committed to geography, we would have to relook at those and say, if 2 of those maybe are reappointments, we might have to say, no, we really shouldn't go forward with that. Or we can just, accept the staff report and get new blood and a little bit more geographical spread and move forward. And like I said, if they feel they need new membership from outlying areas, they can always come and change the bylaws to increase the number of members.
Okay,
But
further
I don't think we can
discussion?
have it both ways. I don't think we can require geographical spacing and keep the same membership and then say, but we don't want new members either, so.
Well, and I don't think that was the concern. I think the concern was that the process wasn't followed. Further discussion?
No, I just, having sit in on the meetings, the discussion tends to focus more on the city boundaries than on, because most people don't know what, with all due respect, people don't know what highway district to district they live in, but we do have representatives from Garden City and Eagle and Boise and Cuna, but we do have some other needs, also regions within the neighborhood. So I think the focus tends to be less on boundaries, which these boundaries were drawn by other commissioners, previous commissioners to me, and not the city geographic. So I think that's why they've always sort of understood, okay, we're highway district has multiple cities, it just makes sense to have multiple members. I think there's almost always only been one or two from District 1 because District 1's almost exclusively Boise.
I also think that we may need to look at the cap too. That might be something to address with the bylaws.
So are you in favor of the substitute motion, or, I'm not sure I understand your comment.
No, I had mentioned that earlier about the representation, and then I also think it would be towards that end, maybe raising our cap, because right now it's limited to 10.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Commissioner
that's a good
Goldberg?
idea.
I'd be really surprised if the Bicycle Advisory Committee has not heard the message loud and clear about a little more diversity geographically. So with that in mind, I think really that's the only notice that needs to be given, and that the initial motion was probably the more appropriate.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Commissioner Goldthorpe, that the original motion was more appropriate. I think processes are important and transparency is important, and we do need to follow the process that we have in place. I had not intended to bring this up, but there was another part of the process that wasn't followed. And it's set forth on the agenda that the ACHD Commission President is responsible for appointing those members. Well, it wasn't discussed with me prior to those names being put on the agenda as new members. So I wasn't involved in the process of choosing them. It was one commissioner that made both nominations and had it placed on the agenda without following that part of the process either. So I think we need to take a pause, follow the bylaws for the Bicycle Advisory Committee, follow the process that we have in place, and assure that we have transparency and adequate notice in the process. So I will not be supporting the substitute motion. Any further discussion? Okay, then we will vote first on the substitute motion, which is to dispense with the process and appoint all 5 members that are presented in the staff report. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay?
Nay.
Nay. Commissioner Hanson?
Oh, yeah, nay.
Nay. You voted nay?
Yes.
Okay. So the motion fails. We'll go back to the original motion, which was to confirm the reappointment of the 3 existing members to the Bicycle Advisory Committee and defer action on appointing 2 new members to the committee until the Bicycle Advisory Committee has gone through the process set forth in the bylaws. So all those in favor of the original motion, please say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, nay.
Nope.
So, how did you? Okay.
Aye.
So the motion passes on a 4-1 vote. Okay, next up is the Spring Rock Subdivision preliminary plat. And I guess we'll begin with a staff report.
President, Commissioners, in the pre-commission meeting, Commission indicated that you didn't
Or
want to
if the
have a staff report.
commission wants to defer this item, I guess we could do that as well.
Go ahead and make that motion, I'll support it.
I would entertain a motion to defer it if that's the desire of the commission, or we can go forward with the staff report.
Madam President, we discussed it in the earlier thing, and basically, I move deferral of the preliminary plat request for approval until such time as we have the CUNA Planning and Zoning has had a chance to look at the overall master plan.
So I'm going to ask our legal counsel if we need to defer that to a date certain. I think one of the concerns was deferring it to a night meeting in January, because this is on this CUNA schedule for next week.
Madam President, Commissioner, I'm advised that CUNA has indicated that they will not act unless they have action first from ACHD.
Madam
So-
President, this is on the master plan, though. I mean, this is the preliminary plat that's secondary to the master plan. If CUNA doesn't review the master plan and the annex, and do the annexation and the rezone and all that,
Madam President, Commissioners, Gary Inselman, Deputy Director, Development Technical Services. CUNA staff has advised us that their P&Z will hear all of those applications at one hearing at the same time, the master plan, annexation, zoning, and the first preliminary plat. And they need our official action before they will have that hearing.
I have a question.
Go
Is-
ahead,
Is that
Commissioner.
statutorily required, or is this the preference of the city of CUNA? Could we not make the same request that the city of CUNA take their actions first before engaging in public hearing on this?
Madam President, Commissioner Hanson, we're required to act on the development applications transmitted to us by the land use agencies, and we typically do not try to dictate their policy or procedures in hearing their items. They've transmitted the applications to us and they've requested our action. And our process is to then provide them our action, and then they hold their hearings and make their land use decisions. If they choose not to approve any one of those applications, then our preliminary plat action, if you move forward with it, would be void. We're not in any danger of there being an approval without the city approving, because they can't move forward without both.
Well, here's the concern, or one of the concerns. We got these at separate times. The master plan came in, we are a recommending body on that. We made some comments to that. And my expectation was the city would act on that, and then we would see some plats. We received the plat at a later date, and it was put on the agenda at a later date. This hasn't been annexed by the city of CUNA, and it hasn't been rezoned. So until they act on the master plan, it kind of puts us in a strange position to be acting on a plat. I'm not 100% sure that they will actually be able to annex it. And this is strictly based on rumor. I've heard that the county may have some concerns about annexation. So we don't even know what body would actually be the appropriate one to approve the plat until it is actually annexed. So, I mean, that's kind of the dilemma. Plus, I think there are going to be some interested members of the public who'd at least like to weigh in on this item, and they've had 2 days' notice to do that. So at the very least, I think we should defer this to a night meeting, just to provide some transparency in the process and some opportunity for the public to provide some comment to the district. So, I mean, that's kind of, I mean, it's kind of an odd position that we're in right now, I think. Certainly not typical of what I've seen in prior situations where there are master plans and later plats. But, so Commissioner Baker, would you restate your motion?
I withdraw my motion.
Okay. You're going to withdraw the motion? Okay, then what's the commission's desire? Do we want to defer it, or do we want to go forward with the staff report?
I would make a motion that we defer it until the Wednesday, the evening meeting for January.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
All right. Discussion on the motion to defer it until the night meeting in January. And what's that date?
22nd.
Which would be January 22nd. Discussion on that?
And I hope the maker of the motion is that the expectation is that CUNA will take action in the meantime, and that they will not attempt to defer this. Because this is, if we were functioning purely as a agency of CUNA, the Department of Transportation, the Office of Transportation for CUNA, it would be appropriate for us to provide some input and approvals. But we're not. We're a very separate and unique entity, and I think the public has a great deal of frustration that the different entities don't take full responsibility for the consequences of growth. We don't authorize growth. This agency does not authorize the growth and the location and the type of growth. The general purpose governments do. And so it's appropriate that the general purpose government hold the first full public hearing on this. And that was my position back in December. And I think it's appropriate that the general purpose government, and my question to Mr. Inselman and Mr. Spears, that is not statutorily required. There is no legal right to have this heard before the single purpose taxing district first. That actually in every other county in the state, this would be held before the general purpose government. So that's an appropriate motion, and I hope we pass it.
Okay, further discussion on the motion to defer this to the night meeting in January?
Madam President,
Yes,
I
Commissioner
think
Baker?
everyone needs to be aware that if CUNA hasn't acted, what are you going to do on the 22nd?
I don't think we're in a position to compel them exactly.
Yeah,
We could do
so
the
I
same.
guess all we're doing is deferring it until the 22nd and hoping CUNA plays ball. If they don't, we're back where we are today. So I think everyone just needs to be aware of that.
Yeah, and I understand your concern on that, Commissioner Baker. I would hope that the city of CUNA would at least act on the master plan, the rezoning and the annexation prior to this coming back to us. But even if they don't, postponing it to a night meeting, which is a couple of weeks, at least gives us the opportunity to let the public take a look at this and provide some comment if they choose. So I think it's worth deferring it just for that reason. But I hope we'll convey to the city of CUNA that we'd like to see their action, at least on the master plan and the annexation and rezone, before this comes back to us.
And Madam President, because we're following the process here, we need to be aware, I guess, that this does meet all of our requirements. So when it comes back before us on the 22nd, I don't know what else. I mean, I don't know how you can change it. So, but that's the process.
So,
Further discussion?
Madam President, I have just a calendar question. The fourth Wednesday is the 22nd, but in fact, the fourth time we will meet this month will be the 29th. So I'm unclear as to when our night meeting is. Is it the
It's the
29th or the
22nd.
22nd?
For Idaho Code, the first meeting on the 1st there was no meeting because of holiday. This is the first meeting, the 3rd, and then the 4th Wednesday is the 22nd. The 29th would be 5th Wednesday, therefore.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just want to clarify, this month we'll just have 3 meetings, and the third meeting this month will be the night meeting. Thank you for clarifying, because no meeting on the 22nd, 29th, excuse me.
Okay, further discussion on the motion to defer this item to January 22nd.
I think the applicant wants to make a statement.
All right. Well, since we have a motion on the floor,
You have discretion to let him speak.
okay, we'll let you make a statement.
For the record, Dave Jorgensen, 14254 West Pattenberg Drive, Boise, representing, and I am with a couple partners, applicant. Recognize the concern has been expressed by Commissioner Arnold, making sure there's adequate time for review. I understand that concern. However, I also want to make sure it's very clear, Commissioner Baker is correct, staff is correct. CUNA's already told us this is all one combined application. It's actually ACHD that decided to split this up into 2 separate reviews.
Well,
based on
this
two-
commission didn't make that decision.
The process of which we've been going through was imposed upon us to have 2 traffic studies, therefore a master plan study and a preliminary plat study, which we did. It's all one application with the city of CUNA, regardless how many traffic impact studies we do or did. So your hope that CUNA will take action is not going to happen. Just make you aware of that. If you're just granting time for the public to understand the staff report and the conditions, you have that prerogative. I surely understand that. However, if you're just trying to do this because you are hopeful that the CUNA will take action. That's not going to happen. They've already told us that, and they told me that again this morning about 2 hours ago.
Well, and that decision has not been made by the body that makes the decision, so I guess, you know, their staff may have an opinion that differs from what the council would choose to do.
Yeah, Commissioner Arnold, my ask is I just hope that we're not in a death spiral where no action is ever taken.
We're only postponing it until January 22nd, and I guess at that time, if CUNA puts us in the position of not honoring our request to at least act on one portion of it, then we'll have to decide at that point. I would point out that Commissioner Baker is not 100% accurate. The staff report does state that it meets all of ACHG's policies with 2 exceptions. There are roadway modification spacing where it doesn't meet policy. So I don't know if that would be a basis for us to do anything different or not. But in any event,
thank you.
We do have a motion on the floor to defer this item to January 22nd. All those, is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay? So I heard 3 ayes and silence, so I guess that motion passes.
I think you heard 5 ayes.
I think everybody said aye.
Oh, I didn't hear. Okay, motion passes. Okay, that brings us to the public communications portion of our agenda. We do have someone who signed up to address the commission under public communications. If you'd like to come up, and please state your name and address for the record.
Excuse me, I'm getting a little cold. Clancy Anderson, 1911 North 18th Street. Sometime 1st of October, I came to the commission and spoke to you about temporary traffic control. You know, that's kind of it's become a hobby, I guess, for me, and a passion. Well, at that meeting, President Arnold, I spoke with you later, and you said, I asked, how can I get this done? How can I get some action on some of these items I want? You told me to talk to my representative. I've emailed Commissioner May 3 times at her ACHD address, and I have not ever seen a response back. I don't know if that's something that she's not responding, or there's something else with email, a goblin somewhere in the email system. But that's one thing. The other thing you said is talk to staff. Well, I talk to staff. I have one right now that I'm going on over a month, right? 15th and River, you guys have this, what started as a great temporary walkway has become a confusion. And because of that confusion, I think that there's probably some safety issues. December 20th, I was told that, my first email was December 3rd, I think through the TELUS request system. December 20th, I was told that the ADA coordinator, the new ADA coordinator, had been out to look at it and made recommendations. It still sits in the same kind of limbo land that it did, where there's 2 crosswalks and you're not sure if you can cross it one way, but you might be able to cross it the other way. And then I had seen it, it's in my pictures, but it was brought to my attention that the push buttons are now covered by the fencing also, which is an ADA problem. And it's just, you know, it seems like I get this dragging the feet. I had one in August at Boise High. That one was a little different. But basically that one, I worked with staff for probably a month. And what I did was safe, but my son that has disabilities was allowed to ride into an active construction zone because of the way the traffic control was not set up properly. He did it in a safe environment. I coached him through it. So that, I took the video. I have a video of it. I did that just kind of to prove a point. So I've been talking about traffic control safety for probably 5 years now. Mm-hmm. And I see some improvements, but then I just see a lot of feet dragging. And a lot of this stuff isn't going to cost you anything. You just tell the applicant or the developer or the sign company that this is the way it is, and this is what needs to be done. I mean, it's ridiculous that day in, day out, you're putting your constituents in this position. And I'd like to see some commission action on this because it's not getting through the regular channels. And I guess I'm kind of wandering here, but I mean, there's one I saw here on the way here. The Capitol bike lane, I think, is closed right now. I'm gonna go back through. You'll see my report probably this afternoon or this evening. The Capitol bike lane should never be closed because there's not a great alternative. And if there is, it's probably not signed as a detour. That should be the Capitol bike lane should either be, if you close it, there should be an awesome detour, or you should close the lane of traffic instead of closing the bike lane because it's one of the only ways across that river. And so I think we need some commission action at some point to make sure that you guys should be willing, trying to figure out how to put me out of business or force me to take up a new hobby.
Well, and
So-
it is very frustrating and frankly frightening to keep hearing these stories about the ADA violations, and I don't understand why this can't be and hasn't been solved. So perhaps you and Commissioner May can have a conversation after the meeting, since email connection may not have worked well. So perhaps the two of you can have a conversation, and then she will have the ability to put this on a commission agenda if she chooses to take some action. But, you know, staff, I don't know, somehow this has to get solved. It has to. We cannot continue to put vulnerable members of the public at risk in construction projects. And if our contractors are not doing what they're supposed to do, then we have to make sure that gets solved. Commissioner Goldthorpe, did you have a comment?
Yes, I have a question for Christie, because I was in the meeting where some very strongly worded, not just advice, but instructions were given to the commercial developers considering this very thing, over a month ago now. And since then, I have seen more than one, but not, I think two, construction zones in the walkways that were done perfectly, as acknowledged by other citizens in the community. Anybody else look like they're going to be doing a better job, or are you going to have to start spanking someone?
As Commissioner Goldthorpe references, we did at our Commercial Developers Advisory Committee meeting in December. I spoke to this on their agenda. I advised the developers that their contractors are under a lot more scrutiny. They will be assessed fines. The way the process works, the contractor is the one that pulls the permit with ACHD, and then the contractor hires the traffic control company. So it's going to result in a lot more communication per the development community's request. We'll be having a lot more conversations with them as we're imposing fines. That was my message to them last month. You also have to be aware that we have a great number of permits throughout the county, and we can't be on top of every permit at every moment when a sign is moved or changed. So we appreciate feedback, and we do our best. Again, we can move a sign, and an hour later it could be moved by a contractor or a member of the public or the wind. But we're working on this. The development community knows we're working on this,
And I'll say,
I'm happy to meet with Clancy after the meeting. I know our staff has addressed multiple times the intersection that he's referencing at River, and if there's something else we can do, or he's got a better idea, then we'll work with that.
You have time, Christie. I appreciate that, and I can meet with both of you as well. So
Okay.
we'll get
And the other thing is,
Thank you.
Christie talks about fines for developers. ACHD capital contracts and projects. You guys, I think, maybe approved Specialty to be your year-long part sign company in the consent agenda today. By contract, you guys can't find Specialty on an ACHD project. And that's one of the things I think is if you want to have a level playing field with developers, you got to be able to be able to find your own sign companies that you have under contract for, whether it's a $6 million intersection project or you guys are replacing some curb somewhere. And so that's one of the big ones, is being able to find your own contractors on your own projects.
I didn't know we couldn't.
Interesting point. Well,
At least on the capital contracts, I can't say, on that year-long contract, I haven't read that contract ever, but I read your capital contract, and I don't believe you guys have, and I've been told by staff you don't have the ability to find.
okay, I would like to ask our legal counsel to provide some input, perhaps in a week or so, on that issue. So I would agree. There
Any of
has
that
to be-
input I'd like to
yeah.
be involved in. I mean, I can't always be here at lunch or at a meeting, and so, yeah, just if you can. I mean,
Well,
I have
unless
time.
it's an attorney-client privileged communication,
Yeah, no, I know.
then it would be shared.
We can certainly make sure it gets.
But yeah, I think our legal counsel needs to take a look at that issue and provide some
Yeah.
direction. And if we don't have the ability to impose fines for violations, then we need to fix
Yeah,
that.
and that would be, I think, a commission level to
Yeah.
instruct staff.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
anything else?
Madam President?
Yes,
I
Commissioner
think,
Baker?
I think it's important, though, that, you keep coming forward with these things. I mean, we don't know where every pothole is, we don't know where every sign is, we don't know where, it's because of we have a massive amount of lane miles, we have a massive amount of projects, it's not just ones that, it's the sewer people, it's the water people, it's, somebody excavating in front of their house, yada, yada. So, you see something, you throw it in a tell us, and, more often than not, it gets fixed.
Correct.
Right.
You're correct.
Right.
But I have, and that's one of
You
my,
know, you have a- you
one of my
have-
other recommendations is daily inspections by the contractors. Cost ACHD nothing. But when your inspector shows up, he can see the logs saying, hey, we've inspected this site today, or when we shut it down. And it looked the same as in the morning as it did in the evening. So that's a great recommendation. That way your inspectors can be more effective on the site.
Yeah, well, we don't have enough inspectors to actually be out there inspecting everything every day, which, and I mean, I would echo Commissioner Baker's thanks and to you for pointing those things out to us, because we do rely on the public to be our eyes and ears. We rely on the public to report potholes. So your reports are very helpful, and I appreciate the fact that you continue to make them.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have anything further?
If you could wait just a few minutes, do you have the time? Okay.
Is there anybody else who would like to address the commission under public communications? No? Okay. Then I am going to officially pass the gavel to Commissioner May and congratulate her on her election as president. And I would like to say thank you to our staff for making 2019 a terrific year for the district. You made my job easy as president. We had a very good year in 2019. I think the district ran smoothly, commission meetings ran smoothly, and we accomplished great things in 2019. It's been an honor to serve as president, so thank you to staff. All right.
Thank you, Commissioner Arnold. And I would like to thank her for her dedication and her exceptional leadership as well. And I would like everybody here to please join me in a round of applause for Commissioner Arnold.
That certainly wasn't necessary, but it's appreciated. And with that, I will officially adjourn the meeting.